Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Brantford Red Sox Report, our second episode here on Rogers TV. I'm Marshall Crocker, I'm the voice of the Brantford Red Sox, and today on the Rogers Brantford Red Sox Report show, we're going to take you behind the scenes once again with the IBL's Brantford Red Sox to tell you a little bit this week about the behind the scenes on the broadcast. Last week we were joined by Chris Ortega, where we learned a little bit about the on-the-field product, but today we're joined by the gentleman who's been alongside me pretty much all season on the IBL Brantford Red Sox YouTube broadcast, a gentleman who's my color commentator and who's been around baseball wearing a variety of different hats for a number of years. We're joined by Brian Hawley today. Brian, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me in a bit more of a sit-down studio environment. People can see our faces for a change today. That's exciting. First of all, welcome to the show. How are you feeling today?
I feel great. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. It's not always the best thing to be seeing my face. My mom always said I had a face for radio. So, but it's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to do the show with you.
I've gotten that too, but I've persevered. We're here on television. We're doing great. It's our natural talent. But speaking of natural talent, you've been all around baseball. So before we get too much into your background, all the different backgrounds you have in the sport, talk a little bit about your past in baseball. What levels have you coached at? What's your experience?
Well, I've coached everything from 10U to 18U in three different cities. I did elite baseball with the Mid-Ontario Bearcats. I've done 22U as well, gone to the eliminations with the Kitchener Panthers. Won a championship last year with my Stratford team as well. So, yeah, it's been kind of a full, once we got into the IBL, I've coached kids from 10 to 35.
Right.
So it's really been a full circle for me coaching-wise.
And we're going to touch on all those different backgrounds, all those different leagues. Let's start with you mentioned the IBL, with the Kitchener Panthers. In 2023, you were a bench coach for the team, and that was a really good Kitchener Panthers team, as we'll touch on in a moment. But the IBL experience, you talk about the variety and age ranges, and I asked a question to Chris Ortega last week about, what's it like playing with players from such different backgrounds and ages, such different demographics. We talked about him. He said it was great and made him better as a player. But for you as a coach, what do all those different player backgrounds and demographics, what does that, change the coaching experience in the IBL?
Well, it can be a little intimidating, frankly, because we're dealing with guys that play pro ball, we're dealing with guys that were in D1 that have gone to the College World Series, and then when the Cubans come up, then you're dealing with guys who played in the Pan American Games, they played in the World Baseball Challenge, and it really can be intimidating. So I got great advice from our manager, Billy Matatich, and he said, just be you. We brought you in to be you. I want you to be you, and being you is good enough. And so that really helped me just show up at indoors before the season, get to know the guys, because when you get to this level, you're not just managing baseball games, you're managing personalities as well. So it was a really helpful piece of advice that Billy gave me, and really helped me to feel more comfortable in the environment.
Well, before we touch on your history as an umpire, one more question about the IBL, specifically the Kitchener Panthers. That 2023 team, you went 26-15 in the regular season. You get to the playoffs, only 3-5, a quicker elimination than that 2 seed would suggest. Talk a little bit about, as we frame kind of the Red Sox rest of our season, as we look to catch, ironically, the Kitchener Panthers for that playoff spot. What should fans expect when IBL playoff baseball starts? What was it that was so different from your perspective of that team regular season to playoffs?
Well, there's two things that are different. Number one is you don't have those 4 games in 5 days bullpen days as a rule. All the best starters are throwing, and they throw right to their max. In our case, in the first round, we ran into the London Majors, which was kind of a dream of mine, playing a playoff game in Labatt Park. It was so cool. There was 2,000 fans there. It was wonderful. But there's a fellow there that Hamilton fans and most IBL fans know. His name is Owen Boone. And he is an absolute horse. And he came in and he shoved it to us for 3 of the 5 games. And it took a Marcel Lacasse home run in the 6th inning to beat Owen Boone in Game 5 of that series, because that really stretched us. It really took a lot of the steam out of what we were doing. The guys were pooped after that series, and then we ran into a tough Brantford club, a Barrie club, and we had 2 close games in the first 2 games, and then in the 3rd game they got us. So that 3-5 record, a bit of a misnomer, because like I said, we're facing Frank Garces, we're facing Owen Boone. That's the biggest difference between playoff and regular season, is that you see all the best pitchers. The other thing too is that you don't have guys taking games off. All their best players, all their best lineups, they're in there every game. You might run into, as we had last weekend, where Hamilton was playing 4 games in 4 days.
Right.
A guy like Jonathan Salazzo is not in the lineup. if it's a playoff game, he's in the lineup. They're not going to get any breaks from the other manager. All their best 8 players are going to be on the field every time. So you get the other team's best game, best effort, best lineup every single game. It's a completely different animal, the playoffs to the regular season.
Well, we might see Frank Garces. We're definitely seeing Barry. That's our game tonight as of when we're filming this. So we'll see if that deja vu comes back around again for you. To talk a little bit about a different hat that you've worn. You were an umpire for a number of seasons. Talk a little bit about that experience and how that kind of rounds out your baseball knowledge, getting the full behind the plate experience in baseball.
Yeah, my shoulder went at a young age. You know, I got about a half a season in. Just to prove how old I am, when I was in the league as a player and umpire, it wasn't called the IBL. It was just senior intercounty. You know, there wasn't a Welland team, there wasn't a Barrie team, and so you know, after I stopped playing, I still had that itch. So I took up umpiring, and then after about 6 or 7 years of umpiring, I ended up back in the IBL as an umpire. And so when you see those top pitchers, those guys like the Owen Boones, you know, different names in those days, obviously, but it's really, really cool to be in there, to be right in the middle of the action of some of the best ball players in the province and in the area, and it was a lot of fun. So I really learned a lot from those guys, and it was nice to know that I could still perform at that level, that, you know, doing a few playoff games as well.
And clearly the people around you agreed you were at that level. You were the 2019 Inter-County Baseball Association Senior Umpire of the Year, so you're as capable behind the plate as you are up there on the mic in the broadcast booth. We'll touch on kind of the situation you're in now. You talked about the Stratford Nationals. Currently you're coaching the under-22s for Stratford. That's kind of your back and forth commitment with the broadcast here in Brantford. Tell me how that's going this season.
Well, you know, it's always a struggle for a Stratford team that is what we call a single A or a B level team playing in a league of AAA teams. And so we kind of take our lumps in the regular season, but the whole purpose of it is to have the guys face the top talent so that when we go to our provincial championships, which is the B level, we don't see anything we haven't seen before. We won't see a pitcher that can shove it any better than the guys we've seen. We don't see anybody who hits it 420 feet like we had when we played Hamilton a week ago. And so it just preps the guys. Like I say, we take a bit of a beating sometimes when it gets away on us, but it really makes us better, because you don't get better playing teams that are worse than you. You get better by playing teams that are better than you. So it worked last year to a charm. We only won 4 games in the season last year. Then we showed up at provincials. We had 5 complete games from our starters, and we won a provincial championship. So it all pays off in the end.
There you go. Well, I think this should give a better idea for our viewers at home between, again, your umpiring background, your coaching background that we'll touch on again in the next segment. You are a baseball, world-traveled man. You know everything about everything to do with the sport. That's why you're so good on the broadcast, and that's why we'll have you back. In just a moment, the Brantford Red Sox Report will return. Join us after this commercial break as we continue our interview with Brian Hawley. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Brantford Red Sox Report here on Rogers TV. Joined today by my guest, my color commentary man on the broadcast this season, and longtime IBL and other baseball manager, bench coach. He's done everything. He's an extraordinaire of baseball. Brian Hawley joins us again for our second segment. Now, Brian, we're going to do something a little bit fun because we talked about your time with the Kitchener Panthers. You've had the pleasure of, because those teams were so good, as we mentioned, coaching some exceptional players. So let's go over your top three and maybe a few honorable mentions, players you coached in your time at Kitchener. First guy you got on the list here at number 3, Liam Wilson.
Well, Willie was great. He was there the first day of indoors, and so, like I said, it was a little bit intimidating going into the league, but he made me feel welcome. He's a leader on the team. The thing that really impressed me about Liam initially in the indoors was his work ethic and his attention to detail. He would do all of the hitting drills, all the tee work, all the stuff that made him a good player. Once he was done hitting, he would go out and he would do unique and extensive fielding drills. He's a first baseman. And one thing that he gave me was a sort of, I guess for the lack of a better term, he gave me a baseball epiphany because I never knew how important an elite defensive first baseman could be to a ball club. Keep in mind, Liam Wilson went 2 seasons in a row without making an error. And so what he does, he makes your whole infield better. He grabs everything. It doesn't matter where the throw was, he would pick it. If it got near his glove, he caught it. And it wasn't just, a lot of people say, it's first base. How hard does it be? It's extremely difficult. You have to know exactly where you are at all times. Have to be aware of the runners. Have to be aware of where the ball is being played, how many outs there are, what have you. And so when you have a defensive first baseman the level that Liam Wilson played, and he grabs everything he makes the infield better because it doesn't matter where the throw is. He picks it up. When the catcher throws down for a back pick, he's got the proper mechanics to get those tags off. So not only was he a big hitter, he was our four-hole hitter. He could hit home runs, high average, but he also was that good defensively. And it just, like I said, it just changed my view on the position as to how important it is to have a first baseman that is that good defensively.
That's a great thing to spotlight because you're absolutely right. I think that is kind of a misconception that there's only so much you can do or that it's only about range, right? Like glove range, stepping off the bag. That's great that you highlight something like that.
Well, we had a guy who was playing second base. The previous year, for a different team, he had, I think, 14 errors. When he came to play in Kitchener, he had 3 for the whole season. And part of that was Willie scooping up everything he threw there. So, like I said, he made those around him better, and that's the mark of a great player.
That's something the Brantford Red Sox should strive for next season, a real defensive quarterback like that. Let's move on to the outfield. Number 2, Andy Leader.
Well, a center fielder, and the thing about Andy, he's just a prince of a guy. He's hilarious. He's one of the funniest guys I've ever hung out with, let alone coached. Every game he would bring a rake, one of those big wide rakes. And as anybody who knows the terminology, when you're raking, you're hitting well. So when we would start getting a rally going, he would go over to the corner and grab his rake and he'd start moving dirt around. It's like we're having a rally. And that was sort of his thing to get a rally. He was great in the clubhouse as well. He was a leader on the team, no pun intended. But on top of that, he was an elite center fielder. The catch he made, and I can't remember who we were playing, but he did that play that you only see in the major leagues when he goes over the fence and brings a home run back. And on top of that, he hit over 300. He was our 2-hole hitter. He could run. He could hit for power. He had it all. He was a 5-tool player. But on top of that, he was just one of my favorite guys to coach and hang out with on the bus and what have you. So he's just a great fella too.
Well, the last guy on this list, number 1, is a guy that if you've watched any of the Brantford Red Sox IBL YouTube broadcasts, especially when we played Kitchener, we know Brian's a big fan of. Brian Junior Ibarra, you're number 1 on that list.
Well, people probably get tired of me talking about Junior, to be honest with you. El Cañón is what we called him, which is not surprisingly Spanish for the cannon, because that's what his arm is. And he came, the first time I met him was ironically in Brantford, first game of the season when we were in Brantford, and he spoke about 12 words of English, and but I watched him work. I watched everything he did with the pitchers. I watched him connect with Raul Gonzalez out at shortstop. Nobody I've ever seen could do back picks like him. Framing at a major league level, he stole so many strikes for our pitchers because he was able to frame the ball so well. He eliminated when Welland was busy winning a championship, they were losing to us, and it was a shame we couldn't face them in the final because we felt like we were their nemesis, and their manager actually said that. You're the only team that we worry about because Junior Ibarra completely took away their running game. And that's how much of an impact he had. He didn't have to be a great hitter. We had such a good lineup with Blake Jacklin and Andy Leader and Raul Gonzalez and Liam Wilson at the top. We had an absolute star-studded lineup there. And so he didn't need to be, like, right now he bats 4-hole for them, I believe. He was batting in the 7, sometimes even the 8-hole for us, because that's all we needed out of him, just handle the pitchers, be good defensively. And he hit a couple of occasional home runs. Like, he hit a big 8th inning home run in London to win a game for us. But on top of that, you know, what I found out later on is that he was learning English. You know, Raul, he never really was too worried about learning English, but Junior was always a quick study. And it turned out, because he ended up staying here in Canada. He's been here for 3 years now. And so he's living up here, and he's just a fantastic guy. I know he's on the side. He's coaching the Ontario Nationals program, and he's just a fantastic guy. So best defensive catcher by a mile that I've ever coached. Great guy. El Cañon, one of my favorites. And like I said, people are probably sick of me talking about him, but he really is a good friend.
Well, we thank you for breaking that down. I'm sure the three of those gentlemen will appreciate the shout out there. Well, let's talk a little bit about the micro before we head to our third segment, where we're going to look big picture. Our 3 games from last week here in the IBL for the Brantford Red Sox. We had that first contest. I was joined by Mark Perry a week ago today. That was a 16-5 loss against Barrie. That was a game that was pushed back due to sun. There was a lot of factors going against it. Once that lead kind of ballooned up, those of you that watched on YouTube, you'll know that one got out of hand. A lot of position players. Graham Tevitt came into pitch. It got a little ugly. The next day, a very close contest, a closer 6-5 loss. That one was on the road in Barrie at Athletic Culture. That one a 10th inning loss. Things kind of fell apart there. But finally, let's go to that game against Hamilton, because you were there for that one. I know the scoreboard 10-6 win for the Hamilton Cardinals. That'll make that seem like it was a little further. But very quickly, what was the main factor there that took that one out of the hands of the Red Sox?
Well, they got down early. Armitage didn't have his best day. He was struggling a bit with the mechanics there, and he walked a few more. I think they walked 10 batters for the game. I think when it really got away with them it was in the 8th inning. Tyler Susie, who's been real good for them early on, he struggled as well, and then they got it back to 6-3 or 6-4, and then, you know, they gave up a few runs, and that's how it got away late on them.
The weather played a factor too, right? Like, we had that storm that almost came in. I think there was a general tone of trying to speed it up. I think guys got a little worried. A couple of relievers though came in and had good, innings there. It made it kept it close. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the bigger picture for the Brantford Red Sox. We're going to break down our couple lists to talk about your team when we come back. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Brantford Red Sox Report here on Rogers TV. Well, today we have a unique opportunity because usually in this segment, I'll be doing kind of a solo description of where we are at the current season in the IBL, how the Red Sox are doing, look at our record, our games ahead. But today we're joined by Brian Hawley, who's back with me in studio for this segment, and he knows just about as much about the team as I do. You've been, pretty much full-time alongside me this season, and you have a better eye for what baseball teams can do to improve and how they can grow. And that brings us to our segment. You're going to give us a top 5 here. Top 5, I'm calling it Brian's spots to grow, but places that if we want to make the playoffs at the end of the season, or if we get the opportunity to grow for next season to become an elite program, what are the places we need to grow in? You have a top 5 for us.
Absolutely. Number 5 on my list is shoring up the defense. I mean, the defense has been improved. There's an old adage in baseball that 2 teams that are evenly matched, the team that plays better defense wins about 80% of those games. So they're doing better defensively, but now it's time to make all the plays you're supposed to make, occasionally make those plays that you're not supposed to make, but that's really important, that when the pitcher gets soft contact, catch the ball, throw it to wherever it's supposed to go, and make sure we get that out. Number four is to push the envelope offensively. My point here is that they do run a little bit. They're fairly well placed, stolen base wise. I'd like to see a little more small ball. Just take some risks, score from second on a base hit, hit and runs, bunt for hits, suicide squeeze, anything you can to just force the issue, because at the end of the day, they're, I believe, 8th in the league in runs against. And so, that puts a lot of pressure on an offense. So anytime you can just pick up that one extra run using small ball, that'll really help. Number 3, I think they really, and I'll get into it a little later when I get to number 1, but defined roles for the bullpen. It's important to have a bullpen where everybody knows what their role is. And so whether it's a guy who is suited for the closer position, whether it's somebody you want to use to set up, whether it's a guy you've got that is what we call low leverage situations when the game is not so close, it's good to have defined roles for the bullpen so that everybody knows when they're probably going to be used in a game. It helps them with their mindset. Pitchers are as much about mindset as they are about mechanics. You have to be in the right mindset when you get up there, so it's important for those relief guys to know exactly when and where, what situations they're going to be used. Number 2, I would like to see them add a starting pitcher. I was talking to Jonathan Salazzo before the game, the Hamilton game on Sunday. Mm-hmm. They have 3 really good starting pitchers. They're looking for a 4th one. I would like to see Brantford get another starting pitcher, help get through those stretches where they had 3 games in 3 days to be able to throw real good starters. Armitage is doing a great job, but they need more of that. And that's something probably going to may or may not happen this season. There's still some time before the rosters freeze. But, that might be something for next year, but one more starting pitcher will sure help.
And Pedro Dos Santos, not to cut you off, but he was meant to be, a relief arm, or a starting pitcher, pardon me, and he became a relief arm. Armitage was meant to be a relief arm, became a starter now in the All-Star game. There's a lot of movement there, so there's precedent for trying to add somebody new, but typically it's not through new personnel, it's through moving positions. And I totally agree, just a new face would be perfect.
Absolutely. So, but number 1 on my list is to find a permanent manager. Now, to be clear, General Manager Jeff Lounsbury thought they had a guy start of the season. It didn't work out. No reason to go into the details there. And so by my count, I've seen 4 different guys managing this ball club in my time with it. And so the important thing to have that one voice so that you get to know the personalities, you get to know the players. The manager's main job is to set his players up for success, put them in positions where they can succeed. And so part of pushing the envelope offensively, part of shoring up the defense, part of defined roles for the bullpen, that all goes up here into number 1, and that's first and foremost. And I don't need to tell Jeff that. He knows. He's a baseball man. He's been in this league a long time. Doesn't need any advice from me on how to run a ball club. But that one guy who's there all the time to get to know the players, to know how they work, how they tick, I think it's really important to get that voice in there so that you get more continuity out of the ball club.
I think that's a great point. Continuity was kind of the word we used before filming today. And it's just, all the growth you work on, if the next coach is going to change that or is going to change the template for success from what has been working better for the Red Sox, that's not what you want. You want to have an organized standard, a new face. I think that's a great number 1. My list, we're going to do Marshall's building blocks. We're going to talk about what we've done to this season, look a little bit more optimistically on what's worked and what building blocks we can use as the foundation for this team going forward. My number 1, 1 to 5, not in order. Number 1 is going to be consistent on-base ability. We're 4th in the league in average, so we're getting on base, we're making appearances, we're getting base runners on when we need to, and in steals, we're 4th as well. Now, we talked about before, Ren Takioka, he's 14-0 on steals, has never been caught. He's doing a lot of that heavy lifting. We're getting base runners, we just got to send them home. Number 2, keep limiting the long ball. We have the 3rd least home runs allowed as a team in the league. Part of that has been just, Arnold Anderson has not been a hitter-friendly environment for power this season. But 21 home runs allowed, that's towards the top of the league, and that carries over on the road as well. Doing a great job limiting the power against us. We just got to start limiting base runners as well. Aggressive GM approach. You kind of touched on this, what Jeff Lounsbury's done with personnel at the start of the year. And it was difficult for us at the start of the season because we'd see a lot of faces come into pitch or come into pinch hit that we didn't know. We didn't have on the roster card. The league website didn't have. It's a lot of new faces, but some of them have popped. Andrew Savage came out in the middle of the year, made an appearance. We're hoping to see him tonight. He's been off for a couple games. He's been exceptional. He was a great add-on. Schmarter in his time was great defensively. He's since left the team, but he was a great add-on. We've had 23 different players hit for us this season, which you look at, we're playing the Barrie Baycats tonight. They've had 12 full-time hitters, just over half how many hitters we've had on the team this season. I like trying for new players. I like trying to find the pieces until they stick. And like a Takioka, like a Savage, when they pop, immediately. Number 4, outfield offensive upside. Got a little bit of alliteration there. Takioka, Palos, and Black, that three-headed monster of really contact first, of guys that, again, they are the reason we're getting on base so consistently. They're setting a tone for the offense. They all hit towards the top of the order, and they are 3 of the top 4 on the team in OPS, the other being Chris Ortega, who, as we know, is exceptional. They're great. I think build from the outfield backwards. They're great defensively as well. You have a foundation. You have a position group that can establish continuity. I say keep doing it. And to send us off, our final optimistic note, my number 5, this is only year 1. We talk about the history of the Brantford Red Sox, a team with 100 years of history with 15 IBL championships. If you're watching this, if you're a player on the team, if you're anything to do with the Brantford Red Sox community, you were a new face. You are building a new history for the team. You were a fresh start. And if you come in this year, you're improving. And as we've seen with the team, they are improving. You come in, you do your best, and next year's year 2. It's not year 105, it's year 2. That's going to wrap us up for today. Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. You're going to join me alongside the call tonight. Very quickly, final send-off. How'd you like the show today?
It's a lot of fun. This is a great thing that we're doing. Nice little studio here. It's a great thing to be a part of. Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the Brantford Red Sox Report, our second episode here on Rogers TV. Check out our social media. Check out our broadcast on YouTube. I'm Marshall Crocker. We'll see you very soon.